She asked the question in a whisper that trembled like a leaf caught between wind and fear. She stood there in the warm glow of the grocery store's flickering ceiling lights, her fingers nervously tugging at the edge of her worn hoodie. "Am I beautiful?" Those 3 words slipped out of her almost accidentally, like a secret she had been holding for too long. And the single dad, exhausted, distracted, and weighed down by 1,000 invisible burdens, looked at her with an honesty she did not expect. An honesty that would later change both of their lives in ways neither could have imagined. But that moment didn't start in the grocery store. It started long before, in a quiet little town where people lived their lives behind routines, behind unspoken pain, behind masks of normalcy. And the girl, Lena, had learned to hide more than most. She was 17, a thin frame wrapped in silence, never drawing attention, never speaking unless spoken to. She lived with an aunt who barely tolerated her presence, a woman who saw her as nothing more than a burden left behind by a sister who had run away to escape her own troubles. School wasn't kinder. She walked through hallways where murmurs clung to her like dust. Some said she was too plain. Others said she was strange. Some didn't bother to look at her at all. And Lena, sweet, quiet Lena, began to believe that fading into the background was safer than trying to shine. Across town lived Ethan, a single father who had learned the hard way that life doesn't slow down for heartbreak. With a 6-year-old daughter, Mia, clinging to his leg every morning, and a full-time mechanic job that drained his energy like an open wound, he moved through life with a tired smile but a determined heart. He had been abandoned, too, left with a baby girl and a shattered marriage. But Ethan was the kind of man who kept his promises, even when life didn't keep its promises to him. He lived for Mia, working long hours to fill her lunchbox, tie her shoes, and read her bedtime stories until she fell asleep clutching his shirt. But no matter how much he loved her, Mia had questions. Why don't I have a mom like the other kids? Why doesn't she visit? Does she love me? And Ethan struggled every time he tried to find words that could heal a wound he didn't create. Their lives were separate, parallel lines destined to intersect in a way neither would see coming. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when it happened. The kind of day when the sky felt heavy and the streets smelled of wet pavement. The grocery store was crowded, buzzing with impatient voices and carts squeaking across cracked tiles. Ethan hurried in with Mia on his hip, her curls damp from the rain. He needed milk, bread, and whatever he could throw together for dinner. Mia, half asleep and cranky, buried her face in his shoulder. Lena was stocking shelves in aisle 3. Her aunt's friend had gotten her the part-time job, saying it would teach her discipline. Really, it gave Lena an excuse to leave the house. A place where she didn't feel constantly judged. She liked watching people, liked imagining the stories behind their tired eyes or rushed footsteps. It made her feel less alone. She noticed Ethan first, not because he was handsome, though he was in the rugged, worn-out way that life-forged men often were. But because he looked like someone fighting a quiet battle, just like her. His shoulders were tense, his eyes heavy, but his grip on his daughter was gentle, steady, warm. Lena glanced at them longer than she meant to. Ethan noticed, nodding slightly as if saying hello. She looked away immediately, cheeks warming, hands fumbling with a row of canned soup. Then Mia stretched her tiny arms toward the shelf Lena was organizing, asking for a particular cereal box with a cartoon bear on it. Ethan didn't see it, he was too busy scanning the sale stickers. Lena reached up and handed the box to the little girl. Mia smiled. It was the kind of smile only children could give, open, genuine, full of trust. "Thank you," she said softly. Lena nodded, trying to smile back. And for the first time in a long time, something warm flickered in her chest. But that warmth didn't last. 2 older girls from Lena's school walked into the aisle, laughing loudly. When they saw her, their expressions sharpened. They whispered to each other, exchanging looks that carried months of cruelty. Lena stiffened. Her breath hitched. One of the girls smirked. "Oh look, it's the invisible girl pretending someone actually notices her." Lena's stomach twisted. Her hands trembled. She lowered her head, hoping they would walk away. But they didn't. The comments came sharper, disguised as jokes but soaked in poison. Ethan looked up, confused. The girls gave him a sweet smile before walking off as if nothing had happened. Lena's eyes glistened, but she quickly wiped them with her sleeve and muttered an apology as if she were the one who did something wrong. Ethan watched her, something tightening in his chest. He didn't know her, but he recognized that look, the look of someone who had been hurt too many times and had learned to hide the bruises behind forced composure. Mia reached out and touched Lena's hand gently. "Are you okay?" she asked. Lena froze. No one ever asked her that. Not sincerely, not softly. "I'm fine," she said, voice cracking despite her efforts. Ethan knelt to read a label on a jar, but he kept glancing at Lena. Something about her felt fragile. Not weak, just worn down. Like a paper bird that had survived too many storms. He picked up his groceries, thanked her quietly, and moved on. But the memory of her watery eyes stayed with him. Later that evening, as the store emptied and the lights flickered, Lena found herself standing in front of the mirror in the employee locker room. She stared at her reflection. The messy hair, the too thin frame, the plain face. She leaned closer, squinting, trying to find something, anything, beautiful. She couldn't. Her heart ached. The earlier insults echoed in her mind. And then she heard footsteps behind her. Ethan had come back. Mia had forgotten her small plush bunny in the shopping cart, and the manager had told him an employee might still be in the back. Lena quickly turned away from the mirror when she saw him. Embarrassment rushed to her face. "Sorry," she muttered, unsure why she was apologizing. Ethan smiled gently. "No need to be sorry. We just left something behind." He looked at her a moment, noticing the redness around her eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, and that was when it happened. The question slipped out of her before she could stop herself. "Am I beautiful?" Silence stretched. A fragile, trembling silence. She regretted the words immediately. Why had she asked him that? Why had she exposed her deepest insecurity to a stranger? She braced herself for pity or awkwardness or a polite lie. But Ethan didn't give her any of those. He answered with a truth she never expected. He told her she was beautiful, not because of makeup or popularity or the standards she was chasing, but because she had kindness in her eyes when she helped Mia, because she noticed people when the world didn't notice her, because she carried quiet strength even when life pushed her down. He told her beauty wasn't about perfection, it was about presence, about resilience, about the way her soul seemed to shine through even if she couldn't see it. Lena stared at him, stunned. No one had ever said anything like that to her. Especially not with sincerity, not with warmth, not with depth. The words sank into her like a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. And then she cried. Not a soft, graceful cry, but a raw, trembling release of years of bottled emotions. She covered her face, shoulders shaking. Ethan didn't move closer, didn't try to touch her. He simply stood there, giving her space to break, space to breathe. When she finally looked up, he smiled gently. "Everyone deserves to know they matter," he said. Something changed in Lena that night. Something subtle but powerful, a shift she couldn't fully understand yet. Over the next weeks, their paths crossed often. Mia adored her, always running to her when they visited the store. Lena began smiling more, standing straighter, talking a little more confidently. Ethan noticed. He saw the way she slowly started believing in herself, the way she began to glow with a quiet strength she didn't know she had. But the world doesn't like when broken things start healing. It pushes back. One afternoon, Lena's aunt confronted her. She had seen Lena smiling while texting on her old phone, something Lena rarely did. The aunt grew suspicious, accusing her of things she never did, belittling her for daring to find happiness. The argument escalated. Words became weapons. Lena felt that old, familiar suffocating pressure return. "You're nothing special," her aunt shouted. "No one will ever look twice at you." Lena flinched. Old wounds reopened. She stormed out of the house, heart pounding. She didn't know where she was going until she ended up in front of the grocery store. It was closed now, the parking lot dimly lit. She sat on the curb, hugging her knees, tears spilling freely. Ethan found her there by chance. He had stopped by after a late shift to pick up a forgotten tool from the manager. When he saw her shaking in the cold, he rushed over. Her pain poured out in broken sentences. The insults, the loneliness, the feeling of being unwanted. Ethan listened, really listened. When she finished, he told her something that changed the way she saw herself forever. He told her that people who hurt others usually carry wounds of their own. That sometimes the cruelty we face has nothing to do with who we are and everything to do with someone else's bitterness. He told her she didn't have to internalize someone else's pain. She had the right to rewrite her own identity. Lena breathed shakily, letting his words wash over her. He offered her a warm meal at a nearby diner, wanting to make sure she didn't spend the night alone and hungry. She agreed. They sat there quietly, Mia drawing pictures on napkins while Lena slowly ate, feeling something soft and safe